Hello everyone, a very good evening. Can someone please confirm if I'm properly audible?
Yes, sir, you are
Yes.
audible.
Great. Nice. So Narendra, just give me a minute. I'll just take Chandrasekhar's query that he has just posted on the discourse. So I was actually looking at that query. I'm not actually able to understand that in what context you are basically asking that. I'll try to share my screen and then probably we can discuss. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I hope my screen is now visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, so I'll just move to the top to show you what was being done previously. So here, if you will look at this method definition, so I'll just expand it so that it is visible properly. Yeah. So see, what is happening is this methods is something that you have defined in Vue, and this is one of those methods, right? Add message method, and what is it accepting is a parameter that is name.
Yeah.
Now, the variable name that you can directly use inside this method scope, that is either name or any other variable that you are going to create inside this method definition. There is nothing else that you could directly use. Right? And what you are using here is you are saying, okay, so let's talk about this first statement itself. That is line number 15. What you are saying is that form data dot visitor name, you want to copy its value, you want to assign its value to what? To something that is written on the left. But we first need to understand that what's the value of this right hand side expression. What is this form data? Where are you trying to fetch it from? So since
Yes,
form data is what it is basically a data variable that is defined inside your Vue instance. Now, I hope you are aware that in case you want to access your Vue instance in your method, in your computed properties, or in your watchers, you need to use this reference in order to refer to this, right?
Yes.
So since this is missing here, this itself is going to generate an error because form data is what? This is nothing. This is undefined. And you are trying to, access a property named visitor name from an undefined variable, from an undefined value. So that itself is not acceptable, right? So that is why it was previously causing the error. Now, once you say that, it is this dot form data dot visitor name, it is completely fine.
Okay, sir.
I mean, why did you write this line? What were you trying to do?
Sir, actually, we created one object now, that is form data is an object that is having two properties, visitor name and visitor message. So I wanted to assign value, update value in this way. I tried other way as well. The form data dot visitor name equal to this dot form data dot visitor name.
If you are V modeling, then whenever you
Mhm.
change the input value, this dot form data will automatically change. You don't have to.
No, sir, I removed this one and just kept this message, that is this dot message dot push this dot form data. What it is happening, it is overriding the previous object in that case. I did that as well. I removed the previous two statements, the line number 15 and 16. I directly tried to push this dot form data into the message array. But when I go for entering the second object, it's overriding the previous as well. It's creating copy of that.
Overriding means it's not
Overriding
creating
means,
new.
suppose I give ABC and the message is some high, and second time I give say def and my hello, then the previous object also changes to def and hello. It's referencing the same object in that case. The other way that you taught in the live session, that is working fine. That I did. That is working. But why this one is not working, I'm not able to understand. Even in last the message which I just posted, there I tried with this dot form dot visitor name, that also happening the same way. I'm just thinking in the object point of view. If there is an object and a property, then object name dot property should get updated with this dot, but that's not happening in this case. I wanted to know what is the reason for how to do this.
I mean, whenever you will trigger this add a message method,
Yeah,
it will take the form data, whatever the state of the form data is, and then push it inside the messages.
Yes, sir, yes.
Array.
I tried that as well. So can you please scroll down? Hello. More sir, the one which is giving correct output. This one, the code before that, not top to that. This one is working fine, sir. I'm using the property and pushing in it in this way. That's working fine.
Okay.
But using directly the object dot property, that I'm not able to manipulate.
Understood.
Okay, did you
Yes, sir.
understand that why I was trying to ask you to use this reference in order to access
That
those values?
yes, sir. That is clear. But that way also it's not working.
Oh, now you said that if you are doing it this way, then it is working, right?
This way it is working. But using object
Yeah,
name dot property,
if
that is not working.
maybe because we are using this.
And can I means what I was thinking?
Yeah,
I
I
can replace
understood.
this.
I understood what you were trying to say. You want to, I mean, whatever the form data is, you want to collect that data and push it inside the messages.
Yes,
But
correct.
if you are using this, it will override the previous state. But here you are creating a new object and you are
Yes.
pushing, then it works fine.
Sir.
Maybe it is like overriding that because of this keyword.
Okay. So this is only the way. Is this only the way then? That
Yeah.
should also work. Means form data dot property should work.
Form data dot property. I mean, this is fine. You can copy that in some object and then can push it.
Okay. And sir, if I use a V component, which I posted earlier as well, I wanted to pass this into this V component is having one input form. How it is to be V model with the two parameters now, or simply I have to pass the form data and that will work in this scenario. Shall I write V model equal to form data, and is it going to work for both
No,
the
no. I mean,
properties?
what V model does, it like binds the data of the form input with some variable. So you cannot like bind the value of the input field cannot be an object.
Okay, so I must go with the form data dot
Yeah, it
visitor
is a
name or
string.
form data dot visitor message, no?
Yeah, it is a string. So
But what if any one is changing and I want to change both of them with single button? In that
One
scenario,
is changing and you want to change the other one also.
I want to use a component for this, say username and password. User is having username and password. I'm using a component for that. And using component with single button click, that should get added into the message.
So I don't understand what is the problem. You create a form data the way you have created, and you bind the visitor name with one input component. I mean input form, input or whatever the input type is, and
So the problem is
and when you
from
create on
parent.
the when you click on the submit button, you take the whole form data, and you can copy it in other object and then push it.
Sir, in when we create a component, it's a child to the previous one, correct? So we have to emit it now. So while emitting now, two properties will be emitted. How can I make it possible to emit with one method? Because one emit method will work with one form only. That is the main issue I wanted to discuss. When we use emit and some parameter, and on the basis of changing that parameter, we run some method in the parent object.
Okay, I understood.
So how it is to be
so
done?
Your form component has only one thing, that is the text box.
Yes, sir. Two text box. one text box, but I want to enter two text on a single button click, and I have to emit single value for that.
Then what you can do, you can, so inside your child component, you can create an object, and then inside that object, you have already passed the value as a prop. So based on those two props, you can like create a data property, the form data, and then combining, you can combine both. You can encapsulate those data in single object, and when you are emitting, so you can emit that object.
Okay. Okay, I will try that, sir. If any
Okay,
doubt
but
comes,
why aren't you like, why you are using why you are creating button in the component? Why not in the parent
sir,
component?
I wanted to design one login form and
Yeah,
separate
I
component for
understood, but
login
what
form.
I'm saying, you don't create the button inside the child component. You create the button inside the parent component.
Okay, okay.
And you bind the text input value with the component with the inside the child component, you have a text button, text field.
So then
So
what is the point of having only text field in a child component? I can add that in parent component as well. But idea was how to use component, divide it into component. That's why I was thinking in that way. A separate component will handle pushing that data into the parent object.
So you
That
can
was
do
the idea.
that way only, but you can do the way I described earlier.
Okay, sir, I will try.
You combined all those data in a single data property, and then when you are emitting, you emit that value.
Okay, sir, I will try it. If some doubt comes, I will ask it on this course.
There might be multiple input fields, and you can create one button in the parent component. What is wrong with this? You are just adding one component, one button.
Okay,
in
sir,
the parent component. Everything else you are keeping it in the child component. That will make your life easier.
Okay, fine, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Narendra, I guess we can start with the session then, right?
Yeah,
with what we have planned.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, am I audible? I will share my screen. Start the session.
It's audible, sir.
Okay. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
So what in this session, what we are going to do, we will take the application which we built. We will take the to-do application which we built in one of the sessions, and create, and implement the router in that application. So I'll try to show how our application will look. So in our application, there will be a home page, and home page will only consist of the links. This is the link. I mean, we are going to call the API and get all the tasks, and corresponding to each task, there will be a link with, and the link text will be the title of the task. So let's say that we have our database has 3 tasks: task 1, task 2, and task 3. So these 3 tasks will be the link, and the text of that link will be the title of the task. And once you click on these links, it will go to the task page, and the task view will look something like this. That task will have the title of the task, the creation date, and the description of the task. And it will also have 3 buttons: update, delete, and mark as read. So once you click on the update, it will navigate the user to a page which will have a form that we will use to update the task, and delete will delete the task, and mark as read will change the status of the task. And we'll also have a login page which will look something like this, and the sign up page will look something like this, and there will be a form which we will provide user to create a task. So which will have, and user can input title and description and then submit. It will submit the task in the database. So this is the overview of our application what we are going to build today. So we will start with the, so I already have included the link of the router. So we will start creating our, we will start implementing the router here. So if you look at the structure, what we have right now is we have a index.html. In the index.html, there is a div called ID. And if you go to the app.js, what it does, it selects that element, and the whole node will be replaced by this node. The HTML which we have declared here, like it will have a header component and the main component and the footer component. And these are the 2 components here. And if you go to the components, the main component looks something like this. So it is a very messy code. So what we are going to do here, so all the pages which you directly use in the router, we call them view. So I will create one more directory, and I will call it not inside the component. I will call it view. So the sum of the component you don't use directly inside your router. So we will keep that inside the components, but the components which we will use directly in the router, we will call it view, and we'll keep all those things inside the view, view directory. So for example, error.js, you don't use directly, I mean, you don't associate the error.js with a route. You use this error.js in some component. Like here, if you go to the main.component, so in the main.component, you have used error. You will not directly associate this error component with a router, but we will use it as a component. And the similar thing is with the footer component and the weight component. We are not going to use it directly inside the router, inside the router configuration. So the header, footer, and weight, these will remain in components, but inside the view, I will start creating views. So before that, I will create one more directory and I will call it router. And inside the router, I will create index.js. And inside this, I will write all the router configurations. So let's do one thing. I will go to the view and create one component. I will call it home.js. And default template. Okay. And inside the component, I will create inside the component, I will create one more component, main. So instead of using main component, I will use this main. So the reason I will explain why I am going to use this main.js instead of main component.js. So default template div, and inside this I will use render or a router view. Router. So if you remember from the previous class, the router view is the component which displays the associated component with that route. So inside the app.js, instead of using this main component, what I will do, I will import this main, import inside the components slash main.js. So I have imported this main and I'll have to register this main inside the here, inside the components option, and then I can use this here. So what I did here, I created a main component, and this main component has a router view. If we go here, so whatever the associated component will be with that route will be displayed here. So if you go to the index.html app.js, so I am, instead of using this main component, I am using this one, because it has the router view. The reason I didn't directly use the router view here, because you might want to give a common style to all of the components, so you can give that common style in the main component. Like let's say you inside the main component you want to create a vertical menu bar, so you don't have to put the vertical menu bar in all the component. You have already created a main component, and inside the main component you can put your menu bar and it will be displayed for all the views. Or let's say you want to like give a uniform padding to all your components, so you can put that uniform padding inside this main.js, and it will be like same for all the components, because all the components are going to be rendered here inside the router view. So now what I will do, I will create the routes here. I will create the routes configuration here. It is a list of the configurations. So let's say the first route I want to create is path. Path for that route will be slash, and let's say I will give a name that will be home, and that component is home. So I will have to import it. Import from slash views slash home. So if you see, I created this home view inside our view directory. That's why I have imported it like this. So this is the first route, and what I will do, I will create a router instance, and inside this router I will pass our routes, and then I will export this. I will export this router. So default router, and inside this app.js, now I can import this. Import router from router slash index.js. Yes, and I will insert it inside this, where I am creating our view instance. Is there any question till now? So what I did, I will tell you all those components which we are going to use inside the router configuration. We will put all those components inside the view directory. We'll call it view, and we also have created a router directory. Inside that I have created a JS file, and inside this JS file I will write all the router configurations. Like I have only one route, so I have only one configuration for now, and I have created the router instance and exported that router instance, and inside the app.js, what I have done, I have imported that instance, and I am using it inside the main view inside the view constructor, the instance create constructor. Now that we have written this statement, now our router instance is available to all the components. So what I will do, I will try to run this app and see whether it works. Yeah, so you can see this is the home page. It's showing. That means our router is working fine. Is there any question till now?
So can you show home.js? Did we define? Okay. Fine, sir.
Okay. So for now, what I will do, I showed all the views which I want to create. I want to create a home page, login page, sign up page, task, and task form. These are the 5 views I want to create. So I will go to the view, and the next I will create is the task form. Okay, task. .js and export default. And the same thing I will do. I will, for now, I just want to create all the views, and after that I will populate the code inside those views. I just want to set up the router first. View. Yes. This is task. And the similar thing I will do. I will go to the router, and inside the router I will create one more configuration, one more route with the path. I will call it create task, and name I will call name I will also keep create task. Create task, and the component which I want to use here, the component will be what was the name? Task. So we have created one more route, and the configuration is it's you can see on the line 6. So the path which we can use to access that route is /create task, and the name will be create task, and the component which we are going to use it task form. So if I will go to the browser and I will type task, it will say this is the task form. So let's create another view, and that will be the task view. Task JS. So inside the task JS, put default. Template. Save. And right. Page of task. So the next thing what we will do, we will go and create a route for this component. So I will go to the router and create a configuration path. I will call it just task, but I need to give the ID of the task. If you remember from this wireframe, so the task view will take an ID because it is going to show the details of that task, of a particular task. It will show the title of the task, creation date, description. So we need to pass an ID because it is specific to a single task. That's why we have created. That's why we are using the dynamic the dynamic path. Name, I will call it task, and component which we are going to use here is task component. Okay. So this is the new. So if I'll go here and write task/1, then you can see this is the detail of the task. So one more task form is done, home task.js. So let's work with these three components, because in this session we are not going to, like, it's the login page and the login form and the sign up form is not required for this session. We will create it, but we will use that form in the next session when we will be like discussing about the Flash security. So for now, let's discuss about, let's try to populate the code inside these views, home, task, and task form. And before that, what I will do, I will create one style.css and try to link it with our index.html. Okay. Now, and inside the style.css, where is our main.home.js, main.js. So what I will do, I will give it an ID and I will call it main, and I'll select this ID and give it a padding so that it looks clean. Padding 20 pixels. Now if you will go here, then you can see that this the main section looks separate from the header and footer. So I'll go to the home.js, and inside home.js, what we are trying to do here, we are trying to like list all the data that all the tasks which we will be getting from the API call. So this thing we already have done. So if you go to the main.js, what we are doing here, we are making a fetch call to this API. Okay, and one more thing I will do before, because we are going to use this URL in every page. What I will do, I will create a config.js and inside this config.js, I will create a variable const API URL, and inside this API URL, what I will do, I will just copy the API URL and plus API. So I will import this API URL, and I don't have to write this string again and again. I will import it and use it directly inside our components. Export default API. So if you go to the main component, the main component has everything. It has, this is what we want for our home page. We want the list of all the tasks which we will be getting from the API. So I will copy everything from here and paste it inside the home.js. Okay, so let's do this. C, and I will go to the form.js. But the problem here is now the input component. We don't need input component because we are going to create our own view for creating the task. So I will remove that. So I will remove this statement from here also. So I don't need this. But if you see the task, we don't want to use this task.js. We want to, okay, yeah, task.js, but because we are importing from this view, so I will have to like put slash components slash task.js. So the fetch function will work fine, the wait will work fine, error will work fine. So everything else, the error, that is fine. The task will work fine. And the button post data, we are not going to use this button here because we are going to create a form. So the delete method is not required for now. I will comment this, and add task array is also not required. Post data is not required, but at some point of time I will require this post all these methods. So I will copy and paste these methods from here at that time, but for now I don't need these methods, so I will comment it. But when you are mounting, so inside the mounted view, I want to face the data from here. So what I will do, I will import this API URL from config.js, and instead of using this one, what I will do, now let's say your API URL change. So all you have to do, you have to make change in this config.js. You don't have to make change in all the components. You just have to make change in one file, and everything will work fine. That's why I created the API URL in the separate file. So if you see here task array, I think it should work fine. And now what I will do, I will go to this one. Wait.js, okay. All this. Okay, wait.js is not inside this directory because dot represents the current directory. So I'll have to go one level up. Components slash wait.js. Components slash wait.js. Error.js. It should work fine. Yeah. You can see in the main component, what we have a task and a button, but this is not what we want. What we want to make this a link, and then once the user click on this link, the user will navigate to a page which will have all the details of that task, and then there will be three buttons. One will say delete, and once the user click on that delete button, it will delete the task, or update, it will navigate to a page where which will present a form where using that form it can update the task. So what we want this text to be a link. So I will go to the task array. So this is the task component. So I will go to the task component, and instead of span, what I will do, I just remove this button for now, because I don't need this. And from the home.js, I'll also remove this delete task, because I don't need this. So if you go to the task, so this is the task.title. So instead of using span, I will use the router link. Router link. Copy this and paste it here. And I will remove this span and close this. So this is the router link. So we need to specify the two prop. So 2 is equal to. So I will pass an object. I will use the object to navigate the user from this page to this task.js. So the name for this task is, I can find it inside the router. The name is task. 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 And also I need to pass the params. So I'll pass the params here, and what I want to pass is the task data.id. So now if you go, okay. Missing parent named route task expected ID to be defined. Okay. Big ID. So you can see if you click on this task 1, it will lead you to the page. This is the detail page of task. Is there any question till now?
Can you explain this line number 2, this params part?
Okay. Format is better. Okay, this one.
Yes, sir. That line number 4, params ID task data.id.
So if you go to this index.html in this router, so this path accepts one. I mean, this is the dynamic part of this path. This is fixed part, and this is the dynamic part. So if you are using and this is the name of this path, this route. So I mean, you need to pass this ID to this route. So this is the syntax to pass ID to the route. What is the issue? I don't understand. Task. So this is how you pass. This is the syntax. This, I mean, params mean the parameters, the dynamic, the path parameter of the path.
Sir, where from this task data is coming? That is this one. Task data.
Task data. Task data we are passing from the home. So if you go to the home, what it is doing, so once you make a API request for all the tasks, and once the API request is successful, we are like reassigning this task array with the data which we got from the API. So the task array will become the data which we got from the API. Now we are iterating over this task array, and each element we are calling it task because we are using V for. We have written V for task index in task array. So the task array is a like array of some tasks which we got from the API. So and each element of this task array has the name task. So and what we are doing, we are binding the task data with this task. And I mean, this is the prop. This is how you pass the data from parent to child. This is the parent component.
Yes, sir, got it.
Yeah, so if you go to the task, so this is the task data which we are getting it from the parent.
Yes, sir.
So we have the ID. Yeah, we have the ID of the task. So anybody else?
So this ID will be dynamic, means will it be sequential 1, 2, 3, 4 like this?
No.
No.
I mean, it depends on the database because it's coming from the database.
Okay, sir.
So when you insert the data inside the database, the ID will be assigned to that resource. So this is the ID of the resource. And this is the title of that resource.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now if you go to the task.js, so what we inside this task.js, we have the access of the ID, this ID. So go to the task.js, when we are navigating to this page, the route with the name task, we are also passing the parameter, the path parameter task ID. So this task ID can be accessed inside this home.js and inside this task.js. So now we will make use of that information. I will create a data instance and I will create the data option, and inside the data I will return the object, and I will do task ID is this dot params dot ID. So what I did, I mean, whenever someone will request, will navigate to this page, there will be a path parameter. So we are catching that path parameter and assigning it in and storing it inside the task ID here, so that we don't have to write this much all the time. So whenever we need to use that parameter, I'll just directly use the task ID. So in order to check whether we did it correctly, what I will do, this is the detail page of task. So let's go and check whether it works. So if you go to the task ID, it says that this is the detail page of task. So from where we are getting this route parameter, when we are inside the task.js, when we are navigating from this task.js to this view, we are passing a parameter ID, the task ID, and which we can, I will go and show it here. So this is the dynamic section of this URL. So this section can be catched inside the component using this.params, this.route.params, and the name of this parameter. So using that routes.params, I am printing this one. Okay, so I will go to the task.js, and what I will do, I will make an API call and get all the data associated with the particular task. So I will go to the resources.py. If you see the endpoint which I have declared, so if you make a get request with only tasks/tasks, then it will return you the list of the tasks. I mean all the tasks, but if you make a request with the ID, it will return the detail of only one task. So we are going to use this endpoint to fetch the detail of a particular task. So inside the mounted hook, what I will do, I will make fetch request. So before making the fetch request, what I have done, I have already created a abstraction over the fetch API, this fetch function. Fetch function from fetch.js, and here I will make the call the fetch function. What I'll have to provide the URL first. So the base URL I can import API URL from config.js. The first part will remain same. API URL /task/. So we are going to make a request to this endpoint, the API URL, the base URL, and /task and the task ID. Oh, I need to write this.task ID and this.task ID. And I have I don't have to pass any header, so I will keep the init object empty. And then if the call is successful, what I will do, data. First, I will try to log console.log data. And then I will also write the catch. And also write the catch. So if some error happens, what I want to do, I'll also log this. So what I'm doing here, I am making API call to this endpoint, with some ID which we have received from the path parameter. So if you see here, this is the ID parameter which we got from the dynamic part of the route, and we have assigned it inside. I mean, we have stored that that value inside the task ID, and we are using it inside here. So basically, when we will make a call, we will make a call to the base URL /task and / if the ID is 1, we will make the call to /1.
Sir, I have a doubt here.
Yeah.
So from this fetch function, here we are using only den and catch. Previously, what we did, we check the response. We check the response is okay or not, and whether it is in JSON format, accurate JSON format. Or why are we not following that here?
Because we have already written all those code here.
Okay. Sorry.
So basically, we have created a abstraction over all those things because we don't want to write that much of code for all the fetch requests.
Okay, now it's clear. Okay. We are calling fetch function. We are not calling fetch function.
Yeah. Okay, so if any error happens, like if the fetch request was failed, so whatever the error will be, it will be shown here. Or if it's not in the JSON format, I mean, it cannot be converted in the JavaScript object, so it will also be cached in here. And if it was successful, then we are logging the data.
Okay, sir. Fine.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
So now let's go here and try to run this. And go here, so you can see that we have we'll deal with this sometime. So if you see here, so we made a request to get all the details of the task with the ID 1, because the path parameter is 1 here. So when we will make a call, the variable part of the API request will be 1. So it has returned a JSON data instead. So with the ID 1 and the title is task 1, description, this is the task 1, status false, and creation date, this one, with all these things. So what we will do, let's resolve this problem first. What I will do, I will go to the home.js main component.js router view app.js. So it is the problem with this statement. Let's make the request. So now we have the task.js. So now we know that we are getting a data. So what we will do, we will create the task data here and will initialize with the null. And as soon as the request is successful, we will replace this task with the data which we got from the API call. So what I will do, I will this dot task is equal to data. So this dot task represent this data variable, and the data represent the data we got from the API. Okay. So we would like to do some more things like format it better. So initially the task is null. What I will do, I will import the wait and error. So there might be a case that when we are making API call, it will return an error. So that time the value of this task, this data will be null. So we want to show our user that some error happened. And till the time we have not the data, we don't have the data, we want to show the message that wait, we are fetching the data. For that, import error from component.error.js and import wait.js. So inside this, okay, we need to register these components. Wait error. So what I will do, and in here I will also declare a variable error, and I will start with the null. And once if we get some error, then what we will do, we will replace the value of the error with the message, the error message which we got from the API. This is the same thing which we did in the last session. If you remember the last session. Error dot. Okay. So what I will do, error, I will write if there is an error, if is equal to error, if the error is null, then this will not be shown. And also we want to bind this value with error. So if you go to the error component, you can see that it receives a prop error and it shows the whatever the value you have passed to this error message. I mean this error component. So if you go to the task.js, what we are doing, we are only showing this error message when there is some error. Initially it will be a null. So if the API request fails with for some reason, then the error will be reassigned with the error message which we got from the API call, and this error message will become something. It will be other than null. It will not be null because there is some error. So we are like changing the value of the error property with the error message which we got from the API. So if the error will become true, so it will be rendered. And we are also passing that error message to the error component so that the error component should could show the error message. And then I will create a div else if is equal to, so if we have some task, so initially the value of the task is null, but if the fetch AI request was successful, the value of the task will become not null. I mean, will become something except the null. So this condition will become true. And if this condition becomes true, we want to show this message. And if neither of them is true, I will use the wait component else. So if the API, if the result of the API call is in error, so this this component, I mean this condition will become true, and the error component will be rendered, and we are also passing the error to that component, so the message will be shown. And if there is no error, the task will become true, like there will be some task because it was not an error. So there will be some tasks. So what we will show the task here, and if neither error nor success, then till then we will be waiting. This is all. I mean, this is the logic which we have implemented. So is there any question? I mean, this is the standard stuff. We did it in the last session also.
Yes, clear, sir.
So now let's go and check whether everything is fine. So it will say, it will load wait for some time, but after that the detail, I mean some content will be displayed. So if I will go here and stop this API, then, and if now I will, so it shows the error, network error. And now that we have started the API, it will show this is the detail page of task one. So I will go here, and now what I want to show the all the details of the task here, and some also want to add some buttons. So the first thing I will show the title. Task dot title. Here h4 element. And I will create one more element, h2 and plus h2, and here I will display the creation date of the task dot creation date, and now I will create a div, and inside that slash div I will display the description of the task dot. Let's go. Okay. maybe I have not used the correct tags. I mean, I will make it H2 and I will make this one H4, H6 in fact. Okay, so this is the title of the task, and this is the creation date, and this is the description of the task. Now, what I want to create some buttons. I will write div. I will create the div, and inside this div, I will create 3 buttons. Button, button. Copy of this, and this will say edit task. Edit task, and this will say as, and this will say delete task. Give it an ID. I'll go to the style.css. Task buttons. I will put some padding here. Padding will be like 10 pixels from top and bottom, and 0 pixel from left and right. Okay, so we have 3 buttons. Now we have to decide on the behavior of these buttons. I'll back in. Hello, am I audible?
Now you're audible, sir.
So before implementing the behavior of all these buttons, what I would like to do, I would create the form which will insert the new task inside the database. So what I will be doing, I will be editing this task form. So I will give the heading for task. I will format it. And what I will do, I will create the input form, input box here. The input box in which we are going to insert the title will be of type input type equal to text, and I'm going to use the text area for the description because we need the larger space to write the description. So input type equal to text and also the placeholder equal to title. And now I will create the text area with the column, the number of columns I want to use like 30. Rows, the number of rows I want to use is like 4. So it will be 4 like 4 times wider than 4 times like longer than this input area. Like the number of rows will be 4 and the number of columns will be 30. So I wanted to make the big enough the text area. I'll just show you the form. What will be the create form maybe? Create task. Yes. So this is how it looks like. So I need to write some PR here. And I will also write the placeholder. Placeholder will be the description. So the form will look something like this. You can insert your title here, description here, and I will also add a button. And I will also add a button which will say submit. So now our form will look something like this. The issue with this button. Okay, we have not closed this text area. Or maybe it's write it like this. Yeah. I will put one more PR tag here. Screener. So what I need to do here is I need to create a data property input form. Okay. Return task. That will be task title. For now, let's keep it null. description, description, and what we'll do, we'll remodel it with this values. So B model is equal to task dot title. Now and I will remodel this with the description task dot. So whenever you will change the value inside the input box or text area, the value of this title and description will change. So now what we want to do, we want to make a post request to the API to insert this data inside the database. So what I will do, I have already done this task. So I will go and copy and paste that code. Okay, main home.js delete task post data. So if you see here, what I have done, I have already created this. I will go to the task.js, now task.js, and after the data, I will create methods. And at the methods, I will paste this one. Post data. The only change I would like to make here is I would like to import the API URL. API import API URL from config.js, and instead of using this long URL, I will just change it with the API URL. Okay. So, and one more thing I would like to change here, that this task item is not needed. We are making a post request to this endpoint, and the content type is application.json. That is, we are informing the server that the data which we are sending is, the format of the data is JSON. And what we are doing, we are sending some payload with our request. So inside the JSON.stringify we use to convert the JavaScript object to the JSON string. So this dot task item, instead of using this dot task item, this dot task I will write. That is, we want to convert the task, which is a JavaScript object, in a JSON string, and we want to send that data with the post request as a payload. So if it's successful, I will alert this data successfully inserted. If not, I will alert the message, whatever the error I got. So before that, what I will do, I will trigger this post data on the button click. Button click. Okay, this dot task looks good. Let's try this. Task. Let's call it task 2. This is submit it. Fetch function is not defined. I need to import it first before using the fetch function. Import fetch function from fetch.js. Now I think it should work. Task 2. This is let's submit it. Says that the data inserted successfully inserted, so it's fine. Now if I'll go here, and you can see that there are 2 tasks here. Now if you go to the task 2, it says that this is the task 2 and it was created on 21st June. I don't know. Okay, this was created on 21st June. So this is the description for the task 2, which we wrote inside the description. So it is working fine. So I will go to here to the home page, and on the home page I will add a button which will allow user to create new tasks. So
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, how this timestamping is getting generated? That is on the server side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whenever you submit the data, the default time, the creation time is the time dot now.
Yes, sir. Got it. Thank you.
So I will go to the home page, and now I don't need this post data. I will remove this. I will be copying and pasting the delete task. So I will keep this, but inside this div, what I will do, I will create a button. Let's div. Inside this div, I will create a button. And click. What it will do, it will navigate the user to this task form. On click, I don't remember the name. Create task. The button, the text on the button will be create. So if you go to the home page, build to render function. Okay.
Create task apostrophe is missing.
What?
Name.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, you can see that we have a button now, and when we will click, okay, on click, this is not should right. Create task. I will create a method. task. Inside this dot router dot push. Now to work. When on click you assign a handler to an event. So we are creating an event listener which will listen for the click event, and we are assigning a handler create task which we have defined inside the methods. And what this create task does, it pushes, it navigates the user to the create task page. Where we are. So task form. One thing I would also like to do. So post data fetch function if data successfully inserted, and then I would like to navigate the user to the home page. So after the data is successfully inserted, the page, the user will be navigated to the home page. I will just show the demo. Task 3 and description. This is let's submit it. It says the data successfully inserted, and after that it will go to the home page, and now you can access the detail. I will implement this delete task. So what I will do, with this button I will associate a handler delete task, and I will make a delete request to the API that will in turn delete the resource with the ID inside the database. So now let's go to the task page. So here we have the delete task. So click. Okay. So we already know the task ID. So we do need to pass the parameter with this delete task, because if we want to delete the task, it should be the task with the ID, task ID. So I will go to the home page, and we have already created the delete task method. Let's see. Go to the task.js. And inside here, I will create the methods. Here I will paste it. This method I implemented in the last session. It's not something that we are copying and pasting from somewhere. And this method I wrote in the live session. So now what I will do, instead of API URL I have already imported. So instead of using this one, what I will use API URL, and the task ID which I have, I'm not passing anything here. I will use this task ID, it will correspond to this task ID. So if I will click on the delete button, it will delete the task with the task ID, and the task ID we got from the path parameter. So it will delete task method is not inside in the name of delete task. Yeah. So fetch, we are making a fetch request to this endpoint, and the method is delete. And if it's successful, then we are letting the successfully deleted. Else, we are like logging the error message. So before, after this delete message, what I would like to do, I will like navigate the user to the home page after this alert message. This dot router dot push, and here what I will name okay. So once the operation is successful, like we are making a delete request to this endpoint, and if the deletion is successful, it will first alert a pop-up that successfully deleted. After that, it will navigate the user to the home page, and if not, it will log the message. It will log the message we got from the API. Okay, we can like you can use this message in some other style also. Like, I mean, you can use this message like as you want. You can create new component and display this message inside that component. But for now, we are just logging this message. If some error happens, we'll be logging that message inside the console, in the console. Now, okay, what more we need to do? So what I will do, before making the fetch request, I will just confirm from the user that he wants to delete the message. I mean, delete the task, because sometimes accidentally user can accidentally hit on the delete button and it will delete the message. So it's better to use the confirm box before the delete operation. So what I will do, const, I'll create a store variable const, and confirm I will use with the message, are you sure? Sure. Okay. So if the user will click on the OK button, then it will return true. If it will click on the cancel button, it will return false. So I want to make this fetch call only when the this confirm method returns true. That is, the user has clicked on OK. I will show the demo, then you will understand. So when you use this confirm method, so once the control comes to the line number 40, it will show a pop-up with two options and the message, are you sure? The first option will say okay, and the second option will say cancel. So if you click on the okay, this method will return true, and if you will click on the cancel, it will return false. So I want to make this API call only when the user has clicked on the OK. So I will use this information. If sure, then only I want to make this API call. Come here. Close this. So I will go here and click on the delete task. It says, are you sure? So if I'll click on the cancel, it will do nothing. But if I'll go here and click on the OK, it will again pop up a message, successfully deleted. And then it will go to the home page. You can see that task 3 is not anymore on the page. Any question? We are almost done.
Yes, sir.
So now what I will do, I will like implement the edit task functionality. Mark as read I will not implement because I'll have to create one endpoint which in my API which will implement on the server side. So I will leave it for some other time, but I will implement this edit task. So for the edit task, I will be using the the task form. I'll be using the same task form component. Okay, but there will be some problem. Because if I'm trying to like update the task, I'll have to pass the identification of the resource, like ID of the task. Okay. Okay, let's. We have only 7 minutes. Okay, is there? I mean, do you guys have any idea how I can implement? I mean, how I can use the same form which I have used to post the data to update the data, and what changes I need to make? I mean, you can tell me inside this fetch function, and what are the parameters that will change if I want to make the put request.
Will you please repeat?
Huh?
Will you please repeat?
I'm asking that let's say I want to use this form to make a put request. To make a put request to the API. So what are the changes required in this fetch function?
So this method will change to put.
Okay.
First.
Yes. And this URL will also change. So there will be only two change. Yeah.
There will be ID to be added, which one to be
Yes.
updated. Yeah, that
Yes.
is. And
Other than
rest can be same.
yeah. So let's implement this. So I will go to the app.js. No, in the router.js, and I will create one more path, one more route, and I will call it update class, and I need to pass the ID also. Name will be no update, and then component. I'm going to use the same component task form. So if I go to this transform, I'll go to the task. Okay, what I will do, I will just go and check whether this works. Task slash update slash ID1. You can see that the same form appears for the update also. So what I need to do, I need to somehow uh, like figure out whether whether this component is being used for the update or to post, because this form is being used for both the purposes. So how would I identify whether it was called for the update or for the post? So I will go to this router.js. So this path is used for create task, and this route is used for the update task. So what is the difference? And what is the extra information which we will get when when the component is used for updating the task?
ID, sir.
Yeah, ID. So if I'll go to the task form, what I will do, I will create the computed property, computed. I'll create the computed property, and inside the computed property, I will create one property, URL, base URL, base URL, and what it will do, the value of the base URL will be I will just append one variable in this. If the ID has been passed to this component, then the API, the URL will be different, and if the ID is not passed, the API the URL will be different. So what I will do, if this dot t this dot route dot params dot id, I mean, this will check whether the ID has been passed or not. If passed, return C slash why it's showing error here. base URL is a function. Let's
I computed that bracket, remove those bracket and put a colon
oh,
like a method.
sorry, yeah.
Sir, why are you defining this under computed that is not clear to me?
Because it is based on some previous information.
Okay.
And we are computing some value. In this case, we are creating a URL
What
based
if I
on
put
the route.parameter.
what if we put this code in methods? Will that work?
But method if you are using it inside the method, you need to call that function somehow.
Okay. So this executes without calling.
Yeah, but the base URL you can use as a property.
Okay. Okay.
And you are creating new property based on the property which you already know.
Yes, sir.
The computed is some kind of reactivity.
Yes. So what will happen if the ID has been passed, then the value of the base URL will become this one. And if the ID has not been passed, the value of the base URL will become this. So if I will, instead of using this one, what I will do, I will use this dot base URL. And here what I will do, this is not the right way to write, but to check whether this is passed. So if you remember the syntax, what it will do, it will evaluate the value of this one. If the ID has been passed, this will become true. If true, then make the put request. If false, then make the post request. So instead of, okay, what I will do, I will go here and check whether the new task works first. Task 4. Task 4. And this is task 4. And submit. Data inserted successfully, and you can see that the task 4. So what I will do, I will just go to the update, and 1, and so we will be updating the task with ID 1. Title, I will call it 1, 2.
The purpose of edit and update is almost same, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
The creating and updating, we need to pass the data. It's not necessary that you pass all the data. But in our case, we are posting all the data, even
Now,
in the update.
in case of update, entire replacement will happen. Correct.
Yes.
Is it correct?
Yeah, this is the way we have implemented the API.
Yes, sir.
In case of patch, sir had mentioned in lecture that we can modify at part. In parts.
Yes.
Yes.
So in that case, the entire whatever is content is there, the content will come back for editing.
Yes.
We'll
I
be
mean,
able to
uh,
see the
ideally,
complete
ideally,
data.
ideally in the update also all the content should come. But I mean, you can like implement that functionality by yourself. All you have to do, you have to. I'll explain it once. This once I
Okay,
will
sir.
finish implementing this part. Title. This is description for data successfully inserted, and if you see that the first item has been changed to title 1. So the same form is behaving differently based on the parameter. If you are passing the ID, then it will work differently. And if you are not passing the ID, it will work differently. It will make the post request. If you are passing the ID, it will make the put request.
Yes, so ID will get back the earlier submit recorded thing,
Yes, yes,
and it will do all the changes there. And if ID is not passed, then a new thing will be created.
yes, yes. So what you can do when you can create you can like fire the mounted hook inside the mounted hook.
But if we no, but if we, in the post method, if we try to create another task one, then two copies of task one will be there, correct?
Task one. I mean, we are using the post method only when we don't know the ID. So if you see that this dot route dot params dot ID, if you will not pass the ID with the route,
Correct.
it will like trigger the post method. That is when we
Okay,
don't know the
so
ID, we are
each time we are creating a new, I mean, submitting a new form, a new ID is generated automatically.
yeah, it is
Okay, so
generated.
if
It is
even
being generated by the
okay,
server.
so task one is a title which we can supply multiple times in the multiple forms. I mean, any particular task title.
Yes. So, but if the ID is provided, we are making the put request. And if the ID is not provided, we are making the post request.
Yes, sir.
This is all this logic says. And based on the ID, like we are taking decision on the URL. So if it is if the ID has been passed, then we are using this URL. Like we are also using the ID because for the put request we need to we need to identify the resource because the put request is for updating the resource. So in order to update a particular resource, we need to pass the identification of the resource. So what I was trying to say, and you can do one more thing that when the ID has been passed, then you know that this is for updating the resource. So what you can do instead of, so you can update this task. What you can do, you can make a GET request to the API and update, and whatever the data you get from the API, you replace that data with the, I mean, you replace this task, the title of the task with the title which you got from the API and the description which you got from the API. So that way the user will know that what was the previous state of this resource. And even if you are not making any change to some part of, like if you are not making change in the title, you are only making change in the description, the value of the title will be the value which was previously inside the database.
So that will happen in the same way. The query I had asked, that is task is an object here having two parameters.
Yes.
And we want to update the field task.title and task.description.
Yeah. So all you have to do, you have to make a GET request. I will just do it. I want to finish this today. if you go to the home page, this is the request we use to get the no. We should use this one, the fetch function, because we want to get the detail of the task with the particular ID.
Yes, sir.
So I will be using this one. I'll just copy this. So, let's see. I will go to the task form, and here in the mounted hook, I will just check if if the ID has been provided, because if the ID has not been provided, that we don't know the resource. Case. This one. Go to the task form. Paste it here. So instead of using this one, what I will do, I will use the base URL. So the base URL is the URL dependent on the parameter. So if we have ID, then the base URL will include the ID of ID which we have passed through the path parameter. The base URL you already know, I have explained it multiple times. The base URL is this one, the computed property. So we are going to make a fetch request to the base URL, and if we get the data, what I will do, I will update this task, this task.title with the title which we got from the API. This
It is under the then section. It will be in then section.
Yeah. Title is equal to data.title. This dot
Task and description.
task description equal to data dot description. So what I did, we made a get request for the particular task, and once we get the data, if the request was successful, what we did, we took the title of the data and reassigned the title of the task with the data and description of the task with the data. So if we'll go here and try to update .1,
So now 1 is not there. It's changed to 12.
Huh?
ID 1 is not there. No? We updated it to 12.
No, I didn't update. I just updated the
Okay, fine.
the title. Okay. So the base URL is causing problem here. It was computed. I'll just copy this. Paste it here. Yeah, you can see that whatever the title of the task has been written here. I mean, the form data has already been populated with the previous state of the task. So this way, you know the previous state of the task. So what is inside the database? inside the database for the task with ID 2, the title is task 2 and the description is description of the for the task 2. So if you, let's say you don't want to change this title, you just only want to change the description. This is changed for task 2. If you submit here, so you can go, then you can see that this is the change description of task 2. The title didn't change. But if you will keep the input field empty, and then if you will make the update, and if you will not put anything inside that input box, let's say you are keeping the title of the task empty, then the null will be inserted inside the database. So this is much safer way to like handle the update. You make a GET request and get the task with that ID and populate the form with the data which you got from the API and show it to the user so that the user could know the previous state of the task. And then if he wants to change something inside in that task, then he could make a change and then make a put request, and that request will change will update that task. The only thing is remaining here. I just have to handle this update button. Do nothing inside the update task. I'll just direct the user to that page. Update task. I already know the task ID. So what I will have to do, I'll have to just write the router.push this dot route dot push, and then I will put the name here. Name will be update and params ID. Okay, here's the problem. I'll have to pass the ID here. So whenever you are using the route.push, so this will not refer to this data variable. So the process. So if you are planning to use the this.route, you pass the task ID. Task. This.router. This.router. So you can see that it will navigate the user to the edit page, and the data, the previous state is already populated inside the form. So this is all we want to make. The only change I need to make is create an endpoint in the API which will handle the mark as read. And once the user click on the mark as read, it will like change the status of the task. And the rest of thing is already done. Well, this is not necessary. Mark as read. So in the next session, what we will do, we will use the Flash security to implement the authentication and authorization. So that these tasks will be like specific to the user. You can create your own task. I can create my own task. And the task will not be public. Okay.
Sir, can you show the fetch function.js file? Okay, sir, thank you.
Okay. Any question?
This will be available in GitHub.
Yeah. I'll post it right now. To be 21.
Yes, sir. So this hyphen capital A represent current changes only.
Which one?
Git add space hyphen A, capital A.
Yes.
Only this folder, not the entire previous content. Whatever the parent folder is there, that is not going to get up. Is it?
Yes, I mean, whatever the changes you have made, that will be pushed to the.
Okay.
And all the files you have added, all the files you have deleted, and
So
all
this
the
file-
changes you have made,
Okay.
everything will be pushed to the GitHub.
What this A means, sir? Now, this in
A
front of
means-
every file.
I mean, you can use hyphen A or dot, or there was one more flag. So, I mean, there are three ways to select all the changes, but in this one, the /A will include all the files that has been deleted, and I mean, this will include everything. But if you will use only dot, if you will write git.add.dot, so it will not add all those files which has been deleted. I mean, delete all the deletion will not be included. Maybe I am saying wrong. I mean, it will leave one thing, either the deletion or the new included files.
Okay, sir. So
If
in
you,
front of.
I mean, this is the best way. I mean, I use /A only because it will include all the deleted files also, all the new files also, and all the changes.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir, on this left-hand side panel, in front of all these files, before you perform commit, it was showing A. In my case, it shows U, capital U.
Where?
That I wanted to ask. Before commit, it was showing. In next session, we will see, sir. In front of all these files, in component, we are having list of files, either then input component, main component. In front of all those, it was showing capital A in a green letter. In my case, it shows capital U in green letter.
Yeah, it is pushed. GitHub.
Yes.
Yeah, you can go and see all the code here.
Mm.
Okay, so should we wrap up the session? Okay, so we'll formally close the session then. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, sir.
One thing I wanted to ask, I tried follow screencast 7.2 for week 7. I downloaded Node.js, npm, Vue CLI, everything, and I was following Tejas sir's entire video, but somehow, even though I was able to start the server using Vue server app.vue, but somehow web page was not coming with the Vue logo, and I mean everything else is working perfectly fine.
It's very hard to debug the code without looking at the code and error messages.
I understand that, but the thing is, it is just a copy and paste. Even the screencast codes are available in the through dashboard, and the same thing is being copied and pasted and trying to run. But then it's not that web page is not running successfully. So there should be some mechanisms, some additional class or whatever, in which if you are able to help us out on these small things, uh, that will help in learning.
Okay. So for that, you need to post all the like error messages on this course.
Okay, in that case, what I'll do, I'll put all the screenshots on the discourse with the code screenshot, the server screenshot, and I hope that will help you to debug or guide me over there.
Yes, you can post. I'll see that. Am I audible?
Good night, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
चार उसका ले लिया अपन फॉलोअर चलो हम से सर GitHub जो पुश कर दो ये गलत है ये कल काम चला जाने ना करो सकता जारी फॉलोअर ना वो फॉलोअर हो यार
अच्छा 4 फॉलोअर्स
फर्जी फॉलोअर ना हो सकता तरह विचारी ना भाई पुराना हो सकता है ये बार तो फॉलोअर हो सकता है चिंता रह रहा है मिस्टर रोबोट के
ना
हम सुन के हम छोड़ दो यार एक